Hey everybody, it's Rich. I wanted to tackle a topic today that I think a lot of us collectors have had people question us about is when will you have enough records? How many is enough? And how many ultimately just might be too much? Let's talk about that. And yes, I do now have a selfie stick with a built-in gimbal to keep the camera steady, and you're going to suffer right along with me until I learn how to use this thing correctly. I mean, it's something I've given a lot of thought to over the years. It is a question I've been asked more than once, and the answer will be different for every one of us, I've no doubt. I think that the question requires a many faceted answer because of the complexities of it. There are people who only buy new records. I've seen them. There are also those of us who mainly buy old records and new records by the bands that they love the most, or reissues, and some people save up for their box sets. Yes, and my wife and friends and family I've asked, when will I feel like I have enough of these records? And it really is food for thought, but I don't spend a whole lot of time dwelling upon it. I have lived long stretches of my life without a turntable. In fact, the period between 1990 and about 2000, I didn't have one in my possession. And in that time, the records that I did possess from the time I was very young had either been stolen or lifted by friends and added to their own collections. And there wasn't much fight for me at the time because, like I said, I didn't have a turntable anymore and I wasn't going to put up a fight. But there always was music in my life. I had CDs, and I had a lot of CDs. And they were a much more portable format to take with me wherever I happened to be moving at the time when I was younger. And of course, file sharing eventually became a thing. So when you're really broke and can't afford to go out and buy records or even CDs, it was an incredible lifesaver. But once I was able to return to buying vinyl again, it really felt like a coming home thing. We had a neighbor at the time who was a person who enjoyed going to auctions on the weekends in the city that we lived in Oxnard. And he had mentioned that there was cool things there every time and we should try it. And he didn't even mention records, but there was just gnawing in the back of my mind that I really should get back into it. And this would have been 1999, maybe 2000. And so my wife and I went to an auction, and preview night, I got to look. You couldn't file through individually, but you could look at the entirety of the boxes that were for sale, and there were a few boxes of records. And one of them had at the front Mothership Connection, which was a very crucial, important record to me growing up, and that kind of was a sign to me that we should actually at least try to get a few of these things. We eventually ended up bidding on two boxes, and we won them. And records were in pretty rough shape, including that Mothership Connection. Shit, I still got that one. And in fact, here's that copy of Mothership Connection. Still have it. It's kind of rough. I've cleaned it. It plays, but it plays kind of like you would imagine something from 1975, 76 that's been through the ringer. A lot of static, no skips. But I am grateful to Vanessa here. She provided a lot of good records in that box, and hope wherever she is, she's doing well. And what surprised me most, having never been to an auction before, was that we were bidding directly against an older guy sitting pretty well next to us. And he kept bidding up with me. And then finally, when I think it got to about $40 for the two boxes I really wanted, he turned and asked, are these for my record store? And it took me a second to reply. I didn't have a record store. I was just going to use these at home. And he was nice enough, I believe he was a store owner, and he was nice enough to stop bidding. And that's very nice because we couldn't have bid much more than that at the time. And it was very early days for record shopping on eBay back then, and I really didn't have any money either way. So the bulk of my second collection began with those two boxes and donations from friends. Back then, you could find people willing to just give you vinyl that was taking up space in their house that they no longer enjoyed or belonged to a relative. And I was also very lucky that my dad at the time was very happy I was getting back into records and knew that we didn't have any money. We had a brand new baby, and I had just got hurt at work. And he was kind enough for my birthday that year to buy me a brand new turntable. Because, as I've stated many times before, it was a foundational memory for myself and my sisters in my family to be able to play these records that my parents had. Because, as I've stated many times before, playing vinyl records was a very foundational memory of my youth. Okay, but I'm digressing a bit here. I currently have about 2,000 records in my collection, I believe. And there are a few more in the basement because this house wasn't built or purchased in mind with holding thousands of records. And I can't blame the people for that. I mean, they designed it, we just bought it later. And if all goes well in the next few years and the shit doesn't hit the fan, we will be building our own house, and it will have a room dedicated solely to listening to music and holding my records. Fingers crossed. But now, let's deal with the present. A quick look at my Discogs showed that I now have 7,035 records in my want list. I really have no illusions about owning any portion of that 7,035 in the future. And many of them are test pressings and acetates and one-offs and just incredible rarities that nobody outside of the band or their management is ever going to own. But I just like to know that they exist and be able to check them and look at them. I'm a database nerd for stuff like that. And really, I could not afford about 90% of them, even if I was to find them in the wild, unless they were put there by somebody who had no idea what they were worth or what they could possibly sell them for if they wanted. See, I just love learning new things. And a lot of those records popped up when I was doing a deep dive on an artist or a group that I really enjoy. And then, boom, you find something there that was released in limited edition, and there's only 25 in the entire world. And yet, somehow, there are 75 people on Discogs claiming to own it. It's kind of that place. I could probably get maybe 10 to 20% of those records on my want list if I was willing to haggle with a Discogs seller who was selling it for about 500% of its value. I'm not willing to do that. And until then, I'll stick to eBay and brick and mortar stores. Sadly, I live in southern Pennsylvania, and there's really not a lot of brick and mortar stores that carry any of the stock of music that I'm interested in. I still go on record store day when I can if there's things that I want to get. But the music I'm looking for really can't be found out here yet. But there is a really good record convention that happens monthly about an hour away from here. It's a bit of a drive. And it's the Keystone Record Collectors Convention. It's a wonderful place, and there are many members, I'm included. But a lot of members go there to sell, and the prices aren't too bad. And just like any other marketplace, though, check your records if you're going to buy them. Look them, open them up, pull them out, and check your matrix numbers, because somebody will sell you a repress as an original. That's happened, and I was in kind of a hurry, and I thought I was getting a really good deal on a record, and he knew he was ripping me off. Stuff like that kind of sticks with you and makes you hopefully a bit more discerning and really understand that the value of your records is a very fluid term. So once again, it's the Keystone Record Collectors. There's a website. You can become a member, and if you're in the area, it's definitely worth your time. It's the best record shopping in central Pennsylvania that I've found. And now with Double Decker closed recently in Allentown, really all that's left, I think, is Jerry's in Pittsburgh. And Ides isn't really for records. Ides is for comic books and stuff. Yeah, there's not a lot of places out here. You kind of get spoiled in Southern California because Rhino Records and Mad Platter, and if you're willing to go on the freeway to LA and endure that, amoebas there. And Amoeba is definitely a destination if you've never been. Do yourself a favor and get your ass there. And so, yeah, records. I love them. I'm going to keep buying them and getting them, collecting them, cataloging them. But I have learned through experience, and as I stated earlier, that I can live without them if I absolutely have to. And I'd get rid of them tomorrow if there was some real financial necessity. I have no problem like that. I could build it all over again if I wanted. I'm not saying that it wouldn't hurt deep down, but I've learned that I can make sacrifices when I have to and not dwell on the sacrifice after it's over. But during those years that I did not have records, there was an emptiness. I don't know how to explain it to people who aren't collectors of things, but collectors know that something inside feels like it's missing when that collectible is gone or the ability to get any of them anymore is taken away from you. And so, in conclusion, I need to answer the question, when will you be done, or how many will be enough? And for me, personally, the answer is there will never be enough. There's never going to be enough time or records to listen to with that time. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate your patience. Never enough. And I am interested if anybody else has their opinions on this matter. I would watch your videos. Let me know. Thanks a lot.